Welcome back to Limitless Mentality, where we discuss profound psychological truths to help you improve your life. Today, we're diving into why you keep falling for manipulators, the psychology behind it, and how to finally break free from their influence. This isn't just about spotting red flags. It's about understanding why those red flags often don't stop us, even when we know better. If you've ever looked back and thought, "How did I not see that coming?" This video will explain exactly why. Number 1. Manipulators target your deepest needs. Most manipulators don't come charging in with obvious bad intentions. They're experts at identifying what you crave, whether that's approval, love, validation, or even a sense of purpose. If you grew up constantly trying to earn attention, you're already wired to respond to people who dangle affection like a reward. Manipulators sense this. They quickly figure out how to give you just enough of what you want to keep you coming back for more. It's not your fault. Your brain is responding to the promise of emotional safety. That's what makes it so hard to walk away, even when the behavior turns toxic. Number 2. You confuse intensity with connection. Manipulative relationships often start with a rush. They move fast. They feel exciting, magnetic, even meant to be. That intensity tricks your brain into thinking it's love or deep connection. But in reality, it's a tactic. Love bombing, constant texting, sudden vulnerability. It's all part of a strategy to create dependency. Real connection builds slowly and consistently. But when someone overwhelms you with attention, it bypasses your critical thinking. You feel special. You feel chosen. And that makes it harder to see when things start getting unhealthy. Number 3. Guilt is their favorite weapon. A manipulator doesn't need to yell or threaten to control you. Most use guilt as their weapon of choice. They twist your kindness into a weakness. They'll say things like, "After everything I've done for you," or "I guess you don't care like I thought you did." And if you're someone who hates hurting others or being seen as selfish, this tactic hits hard. It makes you question your boundaries. It makes you feel like standing up for yourself is wrong. But guilt should never be the foundation of a relationship. If you're constantly feeling like the bad guy for having needs, you're not in a healthy dynamic. Number 4. You were trained to ignore your gut. Manipulators thrive with people who doubt themselves. And unfortunately, many of us were raised to ignore our inner voice. Maybe you were told growing up that your feelings were too much, or that you were too sensitive. Over time, you learn to second-guess your instincts. So when something feels off with a manipulator, you dismiss it. You tell yourself you're overreacting. But your gut doesn't lie. That uneasy feeling is your brain picking up on subtle cues that your conscious mind can't yet explain. The more you trust it, the less likely you are to fall into the same trap again. Number 5. They mirror you to gain your trust. One of the eeriest tactics manipulators use is mirroring. They reflect your values, your interests, your struggles, like they're your emotional twin. At first, it feels magical. You think, finally, someone who gets me. But that's the trick. They're not showing you who they are. They're showing you who you want them to be. This builds a false sense of closeness and trust. Then, once you're emotionally invested, they slowly start changing the dynamic. By the time you realize it was all an act, you've already given them access to your mind and heart. Number 6. You believe their excuses over your experience. Manipulators are masters at justifying bad behavior. They always have a reason, a sob story, or a promise to do better. And because you're empathetic, you want to believe them. You don't want to be harsh. You see their potential, their pain. But this is exactly how you get stuck. You start managing their emotions instead of protecting your own. You spend more time making sense of their actions than trusting how those actions made you feel. That's how the cycle continues. You start living in their story instead of your own reality. Number 7. You mistake control for care. This one is subtle but powerful. When someone constantly checks in on you, wants to know where you are, or gives unsolicited advice for your own good, it can feel like love. Like they're just really invested. But often, this is about control. Manipulators use concern as a disguise. They blur the line between protection and possession. And if you grew up equating love with someone always looking out for you, it's easy to miss the difference. Healthy love respects your independence. It doesn't need to manage your every move to feel secure. Number 8. You don't want to admit you were fooled. Let's be honest. None of us like feeling gullible. Once you realize someone's been manipulating you, it hurts. Not just because of what they did, but because of what it says about your judgment. And that's where pride can get in the way. Instead of facing the truth, it's easier to rationalize, to downplay what's happening, to stay in the situation just long enough to feel like you have control again. But the longer you ignore the truth, the deeper the damage goes. There's strength in admitting you were wrong. That's how you regain your power. Number 9. They redefine reality slowly. Manipulators don't just lie. They rewrite your entire sense of reality. They chip away at your confidence one comment at a time. They might joke about your flaws, question your memories, or downplay your accomplishments. Over time, you stop trusting yourself. You start relying on them to tell you who you are. This tactic, known as gaslighting, is one of the most damaging forms of psychological control. It's subtle, it's gradual, and that's why it works. By the time you realize what's happening, your self-image has already been reshaped in their hands. Number 10. You're hoping they'll become who they pretended to be. This is the hardest truth to swallow. Most of us don't stay with manipulators because we love who they are. We stay because we're still chasing the version they pretended to be in the beginning. The charming, supportive, exciting person they showed us wasn't real. It was a mask. And deep down, we're hoping that if we just love them enough, that person will come back. But they won't. Because that person never existed. Healing starts when you stop holding on to potential and start honoring the reality in front of you. The painful truth is that manipulators succeed, not because you're weak, but because you're human. You want love, connection, and meaning, things they know how to imitate. But the moment you start recognizing these patterns and trusting your gut, everything changes. You stop chasing approval and start reclaiming your boundaries. You stop explaining your worth and start protecting your peace. Which of these manipulative tactics have you experienced before? And what helped you finally recognize them for what they were? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you're growing through it. If you found this video helpful, subscribe for more eye-opening insights. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and stay limitless.